The process of deciding on a career gets a bad rap, I think, because we immediately link back to all of these unsettling memories in our life, like the panic you felt when you were in high school when somebody comes out of the woodwork in your senior year, usually a guidance counselor, and says, high school is ending, college is probably coming for you. You need to declare a major. You need to decide what your vocation is going to be. All these people are investing a pile of money in your education. You need to know what you want. And you are absolutely not ready for this. Guidance counselors, friends, family, only so much help. And then all of these depressing micro moments as an adult when we're hating our job and our general situation, and we think to ourselves, this can't be what my life is all about. There has got to be more. But what is it? All of those big and small moments of trauma mostly leave us paralyzed with indecision and uncertainty. Well, I am here to release you from that prison with some basic guidance on how to make more confident career choices without overthinking. Plus, as an added bonus, some comforting words of encouragement to hopefully relieve some of that decision making stress. Fear not, my friends. I got you. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Upmarket channel. My name is Larry, and today's topic is selecting your career. Now, this video is going to be like a kickoff to a mini string of content, which is all about landing a great job once you get your career sorted, and then all the practical steps that you can take to level up from there. Now, as far as today's video goes, before we get all wound up in anticipation of this convoluted multi-step process to choose a career, I want us all to just breathe, take a giant step back, and look at the bigger picture. Specifically, I have three awesome truths about careers and career paths that I want us to come to grips with, and that's going to help us relax just a little bit. Number one, your career is not just what you're doing right now, but it represents the sum total of everything that we do for work throughout our life. And it typically features a lot of change. So most of us will do somewhere between 8 and 10 different jobs, and a sizable percentage of us will have multiple vocations. The world is changing significantly right now. We'll talk about that many times on this channel. You should expect that your interests are also going to adapt. Even if you look at what you're doing right now and compare that to what you thought was ideal when you were in high school, you may not see a strong connection, and you're only going to evolve from there. You can look into this a little bit more if you want to. Look up celebrities, successful business people, anybody who has a career that you want to emulate or a job that you would like to have someday. Look into their history, and you will probably find quite the winding path. And if I look at my own family, we've been pretty happy throughout our entire life in our working career, but we've been scattered in terms of all the different things that we've done. There are entire books that you can read out there that will empower you to experiment and to pivot. What you'll find is that each phase of your life will contribute to your overall skills and experience and then inform the next phase. Careers are not a one-shot deal, so please try to take the pressure off yourself. Number two, there also isn't just one career that you can potentially find rewarding, just like there isn't only one person on this planet for you to fall in love with. This is not a needle in a haystack situation, although sometimes I realize it can feel like it. You just have to put yourself out there and explore and experiment and learn, as we will encourage you to do many times in this video and certainly beyond. But at the same time, be careful about being distracted by all of the wonderful career options out there and turning yourself into a serial career switcher who is relentlessly pursuing upgrades. Just like in relationships, many careers can be great, but that doesn't mean any particular one is a perfect match. There is the potential for happiness and satisfaction in any decent situation that you're in. What that will require is just a little bit of investment in energy and a tiny bit of work to optimize the conditions that you're currently in. Careers are something you work. You don't just fall into them. Third, try on this thought and see how it feels. Your career doesn't have to be everything. Your career doesn't even need to be important. Now, for some people it is. It's the entire basis of their self-concept and where they get their self-worth. Their career defines them, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't need to be that way for everybody. There are many paths to having a fulfilling life, and they don't all involve having a career that you absolutely live for. A job could simply be enough. Now, we're going to talk more about this in a minute, but for now, I just wanted to open up your mind to all the possibilities of where this process can take you. With all that in mind, let's now review the key steps in making this important decision, which is at the same time not a matter of life and death. We're simply making the best out of whatever it is that we know today. But I do want you to have a great career, and I don't want you to have any major regrets. To ensure that happens, we will need to commit to a semi structured method of decision making. The main component happens first, and that's the information gathering that you will do both from research and your own inner reflection. We don't let you avoid that at any time on this channel. And then the second piece is what we do with that information. We organize, we filter, and we just sit with it. There's no real formula for an answer, no matter what any gamified app or website will try to convince you of. You need time and space to marinate in your learning. A perfect answer may become apparent, or you will just get as far as realizing that certain types of careers will be more appealing and a better match than others. It's simple as that. And more often than not, that will be good enough. All right, let's go. Let's start broad with a general question on life, and then we will drill down into the specifics. So tell me, what is it that you want out of life? Now, some of you may have an answer on the ready, others may need to take a minute. Feel free to do that. But I'm going to operate on the general premise that at the highest level, most of us want to be happy in life and have some degree of satisfaction. Now, that seems universal to me. I'm going to explore the nature of happiness in its own video, but for now, we're going to accept that assumption and continue on. We want happiness, we want satisfaction, and if you're following this channel, probably some degree of growth and fulfillment out of life. Okay, cool. Sounds reasonable. And as an added bonus, I think many people would love to have meaning in their life. That may resonate with you as well. These are all positive, uplifting emotions and feelings. Now, what levers can we pull in life to access those feelings? So, your career is one of them, but there are many others, and I call those the pillars of life. So, of course, starting with career and work, but there's also your health, which is a great enabler of all sorts of wonderful things. Another enabler is your finances. You need to focus on that. Your family is a tremendous pillar in your life, as well as your other relationships outside of your family, like your friends, partners, dates if you're single, pets, coworkers. We all need to have a posse. I call this your chosen family. And then there's leisure hobbies, things that relieve stress, things that you get enjoyment out of, like travel, watching movies, playing golf, baking, stuff like that. The last one is learning and development activities. I'm about to take a course out of Harvard. It's a short but intense course in a couple of weeks, and it's about how to lead agentic AI transformation in organizations. Now, that is not directly related to my career because it's not the space I'm operating in at present, but I'm doing this to add to my toolbox and broaden my knowledge. Most of these pillars intersect with each other, but I do like to consider them separately. So, for example, you could be investing a lot of energy in your job, but that doesn't mean that you are learning and growing now. So, it's important to consider them distinctly. It's almost impossible in life to give priority focus to all pillars at all times. There are phases in our life where we have to prioritize some and sacrifice others, and that's completely necessary and it's okay as long as we're being intentional behind it. And intentional means we've thought through the decision, there's meaning and purpose behind it, and as long as we don't prioritize and specialize indefinitely. Olympic athletes, great example. For 5, 10, 15 years or more, they are all about their career. They are all about their health as they chase their Olympic dreams. Everything else gets tossed aside, but eventually that ends. For a lot of us in our careers, there's a point where we feel we need to accelerate our career and really move forward when the opportunities are there. That will mean maybe that we exercise less or we don't see our friends as much. That's relatively healthy in the short term, unhealthy over the longer term. I'm going to ask all of you to just pause for a minute at this early stage in the process and reconsider where you are at, just in case you need to change your priorities. Should you be sacrificing some things to achieve your short-term objectives, or should you stop sacrificing other things that you have cut out of your life for far too long? Now, I know your career fits in there somewhere, but please be reminded that you can live your best life only if you rotate your attention among all of the different life pillars regularly. We call that self-concept complexity, and it is an essential ingredient and practice to long-term emotional well-being. I posted a video on that just a few weeks back. It's in our foundational series on perception, perceiving yourself. Please go check it out if you want to learn more. Just be mindful of how easily our careers can become a dominating force in our life. And if you do have an active lizard brain, which is something I just published about, it can take control without you even realizing it. Now, how does that happen? Well, a few different reasons. Number one, our jobs can be the most demanding aspects of our life, and employers just seem to know that they are competing against your personal life for time and attention, so they will challenge you the most to step up. Now, our relationships, our health, other parts of our life will not get their fair share of attention until a crisis happens, like your partner leaves you or you have a major health event. Next, we are tempted to evaluate our overall success in life through our work. And the reason for that is because we can measure it through the size of our paycheck and our hierarchical progression. We don't tend to measure and track our ability to make and keep friends or our value as a life partner. We chase what we can measure. That's how our brain works. So that's where the focus goes. As a marketing professor, I get into this when it comes to choosing the right marketing promotional tactics. We default to the things that we can measure, not necessarily what is best. And the other reason is we are easily tempted to make our career and our self concept one in the same, meaning we will base our entire feeling of self worth off of how far we got in our career. And I blame society in part for this because we often externally feel judged by society in terms of what we're doing for our career and how far we've gotten. This is why men, especially, lose their minds in retirement because they have only focused on their career. That's where they've gotten all the value and meaning out of their life, and they're no longer working. There's no meaning. There's this cloud of hopelessness that hangs over them because they haven't nurtured any of the other pillars throughout their life and found any value in it. Look up articles which are written quite often about regrets of the dying. You never hear about people who regret sacrificing their career to do fun things and build relationships and work on their health. In fact, the problem is the opposite. So seize the opportunity now to establish some balance in your life. But hang on a second. If you are Gen Z or younger, you probably already understand this. So older people like me need to stop crapping on your generations for having a worldly, balanced perspective on life like you do. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Older people, pay attention. Now that you have made peace with the importance of your career, let's shift our perspective just a little to zero in on the role of your career in your life. You've decided where your career fits in on the priority list. Now you have to determine how it's going to contribute to your happiness. You will likely pursue one of two paths, assuming you come to the conclusion that your career is important at all. The first path is your career is going to be what gives you meaning. The second path is your career is going to facilitate meaning in all other critical areas of your life. So, what do I mean by that? You could choose a career that has great work-life balance and flexible hours so that you can spend more time with your family. Or maybe you pick something that you're really good at and you can make a lot of money at, but you don't really love it. You don't hate it, but you don't love it. You just do it to make money and pay for all these other expensive hobbies. So some people practice law, accounting, corporate compliance, not because they thrive on it, because they're good at it and they can get rich off of it and they can enjoy all the benefits of that. So you can definitely think in those terms about your career is totally valid. A way we can take this thinking a little bit further is to explore the Ikigai model that breaks fulfillment into four sectors. So you can think of your career as a moneymaker or something you're passionate about, good at, or important to society. The intersection between what you're good at and what you can make money doing is the least inspiring, but doing what you love and what has meaning to both you and society maxes out your purpose, may or may not make you rich. And really, if you're doing something you love and other people find it valuable, you're going to find a way to make money on it somehow. You're just not thinking about money first, which is not wrong. You're free to do that. But if you do want to be all about the money, be prepared to invest a lot of time and a considerable amount of energy doing work that you absolutely hate and you may also not be good at. That's a long road and an incredible grind that's not for everyone. And I get it. Money is intoxicating, right? I don't need to tell you guys that. But there's this saying when I lived in the Caribbean that always made me smile. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Think about that. Anyway, don't spend too much time on this step in the process. It's really good for some preliminary thinking, but it's more useful when you get to the end of the process and perhaps you have a few different careers that you want to choose between. A model like Ikigai could really help you there. Where you do want to spend your time is in this third phase, the self-analysis component. And if you know me by now, you knew this was coming. This part of the process might just be the most important one, so much so that it's one of the primary reasons why this channel even exists. Hear me on this one. Your biggest barrier to finding the right career is the fact that you don't know yourself very well. I don't care how old you are. I'm 129 years old. I'm still learning about myself and I'm really into the process. Self-discovery, I will offer, is your biggest free tool to supercharge your career overall. Now, there's four areas that I want you to do at least some self-reflection on, and of course, I have videos on all of these if you want to learn more. First is your self concept. What is your ideal self? How do you want to see yourself and how do you want others to see you? So, this is not all about constructing your life around pleasing others, but your career is in part your offering to organizations that's centered around your skills, your abilities, your personal attributes, your knowledge, and your values. Be conscious of the brand that you're trying to build. And because brand is a dirty word for some people, check yourself to make sure that it's coming from a place of authenticity and humility as opposed to something that's being fabricated or superficial. So, an example, say you want to work out and you want to get into phenomenal shape. Well, why do you want to do that? Are you doing that to build confidence? Are you doing that to show initiative and self discipline and mental resilience? Or is this all ego based, like you want to be physically imposing or you want to be admired? Craft an authentic, ideal self that has practical benefits that will translate into career fulfillment. Next, more than anything else in this video, if you have not done so already, please do a personality test or take a personality inventory, as it is sometimes called. The importance of creating alignment between your personality and your career choice is underrated, I promise you. So you want to know your scores on the big five personality traits and also some scores on your subdimensions if at all possible. Now, in my personality video that I posted a few weeks back, I do recommend one test, but there are many free tools out there for you to try. What you do not want to do is just accept the generalized commentary that comes at the end of the test. That is not deep analysis of your personality. This is really just where the process begins. Take your scores on that test and start to reflect on your behaviors at school, at work, in your personal life, and especially in important moments. Notice how you have behaved and connect that to the personality test results so that you can validate the results or even challenge your scores. But either way, you're going to become locked in knowing this part of yourself. Your personality profile and behavioral examples can then be plugged into various digital platforms and apps out there that I'll talk about later on in this video to not necessarily give you a perfect career match, but to give you some reasonable food for thought. Honestly, you guys, I'm going to be obsessing about personality throughout the life of this channel. I've already talked about it in several videos with one dedicated video on personality. There's going to be more to come. It is a gold mine of personal insight. If you do the necessary reflection, it will point you in a sensible direction for your career, and it can help you reveal some strengths that you have absolutely no idea that you possess that you can offer to employers and get yourself hired. I'm going to give you an example from my own life and how my reflections led me to the perfect career choice. But because I reflected too late, I missed out on an opportunity to do this career. And when I tell you what the career is, you'll see it's a little bit late to start. And I'm really happy with what I'm doing now. And I'm able to shape it into something I truly enjoy, which is what I'm doing now in producing these videos. Let me share some aspects about myself first. Now, I have convincing stories that validate all of these personality dimensions and other Mars model elements about myself, but we'll keep this example fairly short. So let's accept these things I'm about to tell you about myself as being fact. Number one, I have a strong ethical compass. I'm sort of a law and order guy, but I'm also quite empathetic and I do care about other people. I am reliable, I'm goal-oriented, and I'm detail-oriented. Although I'm creative, I tend to more encourage discipline, structure, and efficiency. I do love people, but I have a bias toward working alone in my own disciplined systems more often than not. I have a lot of curiosity when it comes to people. I can reconcile both quantitative and qualitative information really well. This was pointed out on one of my performance appraisals at Johnson & Johnson. So I like data and I like human information, and I can master the complexity of bringing them together to figure out problems and solutions. I also have a natural affinity to creative problem solving. So certain types of problems, if they relate to any of these other aspects of myself that I just mentioned, I'm like a dog on a bone. Like I absolutely won't sleep until I figure out the problem and come up with a solution. You put all of that into a blender and reflect, and here's what comes out in, tandem with using some online digital tools which help me along the way. My ideal job is forensic accountant. So it's not just doing accounting, but it's doing a lot of investigative accounting, especially when there's unethical situations that you want to reveal and make sure that all of the accounting information is valid and authentic and true. So I love my career, but there were signs all along the way, not just doing personality tests, but just looking at where I was naturally inclined to take some jobs and do some things. The signs were there that I could have pursued this direction. I considered accounting way back when I was doing undergrad. So I was doing a business degree and I had to pick a major within that degree. I eventually went over to marketing because I didn't really see what was so special or interesting about accounting. My first job that I took was as an accounting supervisor for a bank, and that blossomed into a territorial head of operations role. But I thought that was like a dead end job. And again, I couldn't see what was so inspiring about that work. And I just felt that I was more business oriented and more creative. So I pursued other things. I almost did a master's in journalism. Something was like, okay, I wanted to do a master's degree after I was working in banking, didn't want to do that anymore. And I thought about MBA, which is ultimately what I did, but I first applied to Masters of Journalism and didn't get in. And I'm glad I didn't because journalism is a really tough career now, but I didn't realize at the time what interested me about journalism was investigative journalism, and I think I could have found a really cool niche in that area. But anyway, I went off and I did my MBA in marketing. And all the things I'm doing now is great. So the marketing brings together analysis and real science with the complexity of understanding people. Because in order to be a successful marketer, you really have to understand people and psychology, which has evolved into what I'm doing now in creating YouTube videos that are about human behavior and human thoughts and human emotions and how that affects the choices that we make and how we can leverage them to make even better choices. So it all does come back to a place of interest for me. I'm just missing out on some of that investigative part of it, but I can still do a lot of creative problem solving anyway. So I would say do this reflection, notice your behaviors, notice your habits, notice your inclinations. It can unlock so many things if you do this reflecting well. So please leave a comment if you have done some reflecting or if you've noticed some things in your history and have had some big moments of insight, those aha moments that I talk about. Leave those in the comments or ask a question if you need some help with the process. I want to hear what you guys are coming up with. The third area of self-learning is getting real with your own motivational dynamics. Now, I posted a video on motivating yourself a few weeks ago. You can check that out to learn more. But understanding your motivation will give you a sense of what's possible and how quickly that can happen. Where I want you to audit first and foremost is your drives. Now, your drives are these natural instincts that we have to correct something that is out of balance by taking or avoiding action. A simple example I used in the last video is you may feel hungry, so that means something is out of balance. You instinctively take steps to fix it. This is a game of noticing. Notice important events in your life, or you can even audit what you did today, yesterday, the day before. Notice what you naturally do or not do in response to any external events or circumstances that are affecting you, or even what do you normally do when you are in default mode and nothing is going on. Another way to think about this is what are you solving for? What do you most naturally gravitate to? So I'm going to put some words up on the screen right here. Look at those words and see if there's anything there that you regularly adjust for, sometimes without even thinking. So we all have drives in all of the categories that I presented in the motivational video, but some tend to be more dominant in us than others. What are yours? Do you have a bias for action and learning? Is it easy for you to just sit and scroll and watch TV for hours at a time? Or do you go into panic mode when you haven't done anything for 20 minutes straight? Do you dream big and actively pursue upgrades in multiple areas of your life every day without prompting? Are you the type that naturally seems to engage or disengage with people, with events, with uncomfortable situations? If you feel like you want to develop your career, are you deciding, okay, I need to find someone that I can look up and go for coffee with, or find an event to attend and you just put yourself out there? Or do you stay home and try to figure out a way to get the world to come to you? Do you have a bias towards simplicity, peace, comfort, and quiet? That's not really a bad thing, but is that your go-to on the regular almost every day? You don't want to put yourself out there. You don't want to be made uncomfortable. You try to avoid stress. You need a lot of rest. You make yourself and your world really small, but if you shrink yourself, your opportunities do become rather limited. This is a good reflection to do, I have to be honest, but you should prepare yourself for a bit of a reality check. Be honest with whatever you find, whatever you conclude, and please understand you can work with whatever it is. You just may initially be at a bit of a disadvantage to somebody who has higher drives and more of a bias for action and engagement. You just have to build yourself up to that level. In the short term, your career goals may be a little less epic, but more achievable in terms of results. So you'll be able to launch into that repetitive motivational cycle and level yourself up. Otherwise, you may suffer from what we call the temporal disconnect. And that's that inability to take action because of this tremendous and daunting gap that you see between where you are and where you want to be. The fourth and last area to do some reflection is in your skills and abilities and knowledge and personal attributes, even like your personality, your looks, your sense of humor. All of those things matter as tools to contribute to your career. This is a longer conversation that we will have in a separate video, so I'm going to postpone most of it. For now, I'm going to guide you in this one important way. It is necessary for you to validate the skills and abilities that you have to give proper momentum to the career path that you want to take. Don't just spend 5 minutes cooking up a list of things that you believe about yourself and go, yeah, that looks good. You need to validate. Is this really a skill? Do I have expertise? Is my knowledge next level? You have to critique yourself with examples. All right, here's one that is quite common. I hear stuff like this all the time when people are trying to work on their resume and elevate their skills or do some self-analysis. I have a skill with customer service and communication. And then I say, well, how do you know? And their answer is because I worked in a customer service role for 2 years. Hold on. Just because you did the job, that doesn't mean that you have the skill. Yes, you've had to communicate as a part of the job, but again, how do we know that you have the skill? There's a difference between experience and mastery. If you have mastery, you have greater career potential. You have a lot more to offer to employers. So have you just done it or are you really good at it? People have a lot of difficulty answering that question. It takes a lot more thought and maybe some intentional activity, which I will bring up in future videos. You can also validate by collecting feedback from others. Now, you may be one of the lucky ones, as I have been, and received amazing and robust performance feedback from supervisors and managers. I've learned a lot about my skills and abilities from the performance evaluation process with examples, things I didn't even know I was doing or skills that I had. As a professor, I try to be generous with my feedback wherever possible because I know students have a hunger to understand where they're at, positively or negatively. Or you can ask friends, anyone who's going to keep it real with you and has some real personal insight that they can share. Like you might think that you're really funny, they may have some news for you. So feedback is tremendous validation and it's great learning. And sometimes it's a reality check. Okay, now you've collected this whole mess of information. Brilliant. Now what? It's time to process it and organize, filter it, try to find some meaning in the information that you've gathered. You want to establish a connection between who you are and what you should be doing. One of the most silly, if not ridiculous parts of this entire exercise is we have a hard time brainstorming a master list of careers to even evaluate. How many can you come up with in the span of about a minute? I'd be surprised if you get much past 15. Even worse, when you think back to when you were 17 and you were being pressured to choose a career coming out of high school. Forensic accountant, that was not even in my vocabulary until about 10 years ago, and by then, that ship had sailed. This is where decision aids such as vocational preference inventories come in real handy, and they are found all over the place online. Many free tools on government websites, both in the US and Canada, and I'm sure internationally. Colleges put them out as well, so they're really not difficult to find. They are also called interest profilers and psychometrics tests. They have a few different names. These are all cute little programs, but I would not lean on them like they're perfect science to match you with your career, but I would instead think of them more like support to help you brainstorm and then narrow your focus. But they all do a reasonable job of organizing your attributes and your preferences into some viable career options for you to research further, and I'm going to come to that in just a minute. Now, here's one that I just did. It's a psychometrics test. It organizes your results into markers that again connect to potential careers. No surprise, my top 3 markers are people-centric, investigative, and enterprising. You can then plug this into the US government databases and generate lists of amazing and relevant careers to evaluate. If I were you, I would be trying a whole bunch of these different tools and tests because each one is going to have its own unique angle into your true nature. But the more personal insight that you bring to the table through your self-analysis, the more informed your answers are going to be on all those questionnaires and gamified apps, and that makes for more useful output. But if you keep doing these tests, just watch. You're going to start to see themes that will emerge on where exactly you should be focusing. If you want to stop there, you can have a viable list of career options without a doubt on paper. But if this is an important decision and you want to be absolutely sure what it is you're doing, you want to take this last step. This phase is designed to fine tune your options, strive for as much precision in the match as possible. Go to LinkedIn or any other employment site and find specific jobs in the profession you are considering. Look up job descriptions for something you might realistically want to target in about 1 to 3 years, and then filter for the ones that best line up to your own attributes and interests. Then, critical step, get out there and meet people offline. Video is okay. But this is a great coffee chat to have because it doubles as networking and it's not intimidating to others who think you are networking just to hit them up for a job. People really hate that. That's why they often don't take networking meetings. But if you come across as authentically curious and interested and thoughtful and invested in your career research, you're going to put people at ease and they're going to be more likely to help. And what do you want to discuss in these meetings? Well, it's everything that's underneath the job title. So the job title is just packaging. There's no substance to it. And many times the title is created to appeal to your ego. To know if your purpose and your interests and your strengths line up, you want to dig into the duties and the functions of the job. One thing I wouldn't worry too much about at this point is culture that is more company specific, but you can ask for the general pace and intensity of work for that profession, which may be a commonality between companies. Something that I think is more important is probing for what you need to be and what you need to have to be successful in the role. So, as you know, if you've read any job descriptions, they're really long. It's like they're looking for the second coming of Christ when it comes to skills. A good question to ask of the person that you're talking to, ask them to think of 2 or 3 people in their organization who are successful and that they themselves admire. And ask them why they admire these people. What skills and abilities and knowledge have they demonstrated to get where they are? And ask for examples. It's one of the most insight driving questions you could possibly ask in a coffee chat. Oh, here's another one that you can ask, especially if you're speaking to a manager, somebody who has direct reports. Ask them what's missing on their team or in the organization overall in terms of skills, abilities, knowledge, behaviors, and listen to what they say. This is a really cool window into finding out what's really important in these professions. And then you can line up your own suitability and maybe see if you can bring value to the profession. Now, if you want to get really ballsy, you can switch from information gathering mode to sales mode and start pitching yourself for the job. But really, this is supposed to be a networking meeting to gather information. Proceed with caution, you could turn that person off. But these types of conversations, they are absolutely gold. And if they are done, as I said, with an authentic level of curiosity, you're going to be inspired by the knowledge that you have collected, and you're going to be really excited by all of these new connections that you've made. And that's it. That's the 4 main steps in the process, as radical as they don't seem. It's investment, it's curiosity, it's thinking, and it's also timing. That last one is important. If you're making decisions under duress, you're not collecting enough information and you're going to make a shitty decision. But if you work on this process little by little as you go, you collect information, you uncover insights, and you sit with those insights, even though you don't have a computer program next to you with this perfect formula, the answers just start to become apparent. In closing, I want to leave you with 2 more thoughts before we end for today. There is this motivational paradox in our lives where many of us want to have a satisfying career, but at the same time, we have this aversion to working on it because it's such a pain in the ass. Nobody is managing your career but you. You get out of your career what you put into it. If you're not willing to invest the time and energy to have a successful and fulfilling career, it's just not happening. And maybe in that case, what you'll need to do is just accept that for your own peace of mind with no judgment from anybody, especially me. Well, the good news is I did earlier give you an alternative list of ways to find joy and meaning in life. And then I want to give you some personal perspective from my own history. So, my career has been made up of a collage of jobs within the business domain. I have had quite a number of wins in my career and, yeah, maybe a few losses. I mostly made good decisions when it comes to my career. I missed the mark a few times, but you know what? I have no regrets. And the few times that I do have regrets come from phases in my life where I knew there was something better for me, either inside or outside of the organization, and I chose the status quo. Doing nothing, passing on growth, development, and progress, it just leaves a hole in your life. It's time that you can't get back. And to me, time is one of the most precious commodities in a life that I feel is far too short. So I guess my appeal to all of you is do something, because doing something is almost always better than doing nothing. Keep it moving, as we say here at Upmarket. Please reach out with questions or comments. We're always here to support. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Have a spectacular day, and we will see you in the next video.